Let's look at this Saudi desert landscape. In this 2019 satellite view, it appears completely empty. Next to it, a road seems to appear out of nowhere. Dozens of trucks use it. This picture was taken 3 years later, in 2023. This site marks the beginning of a massive project. By 2029, it's expected to look like this.
The region's first outdoor ski experience. Enjoy the buzz of world-class entertainment.
Hey, it's Lucas. In October 2022, Saudi Arabia is officially chosen to host the 2029 Winter Asian Games. These will be the first Winter Games in history to be held in the Arabian Peninsula. It's a sort of spin-off of the Winter Olympics, but for Asian countries. The announcement sparked criticisms and questions, especially from athletes.
Du point de vue écologique, ça paraît être une catastrophe. Extérieurement parlant, je connais pas assez le projet, je connais pas assez le sujet pour vraiment dire que c'est une catastrophe.
For Saudi Arabia, it's part of a much bigger project, you'll see. To achieve this, the country is committing to carbon neutrality and nature conservation. In this episode of The Big Explanation, I wanted to understand how a winter sports competition can be held in the desert. Can it really be as eco-friendly as the project claims? Let me explain to you. When we talk about skiing in the Middle East, this may come to mind. This 13-20 feet indoor slope is in Dubai, in the nearby United Arab Emirates, in a shopping mall. For the 2029 Winter Games, Saudi Arabia is planning a much bigger ski resort, 22 miles of slopes, mostly outdoors.
Pour le moment, c'est difficile de se rendre réellement compte qu'il peut y avoir des Jeux asiatiques d'hiver dans cette zone.
Because snow is of course essential for Winter Games with dozens of skiing or snowboarding events. These photos were taken in Trojena, the future resort for Winter Games. Yes, it can snow in Saudi Arabia. The project's website states that Trojena experiences sub-30 winter temperatures, and that Trojena has ideal conditions for a top-tier ski resort.
This is actually film from a test that we've been doing up in the mountains for the last 3 years. So this is a skier skiing on the snow that we've made in Trojena on our test ski slope.
Actually, it's not in the Arabian desert, but in a mountainous area along the Red Sea, at elevations ranging from 5,000 to 8,500 feet above sea level. But to make snow games, you need more than just a few snowflakes. I wondered if this weather was common or exceptional. Laura Sorpe, a hydrology PhD student, analyzed satellite observation records from the past 5 years.
On n'a jamais observé de la neige durer plus de 3 jours consécutifs sur les 5 dernières années. Donc c'était le 11 janvier 2020. Il était tombé à peu près 4 cm de neige fraîche. Du 11 au 13 déjà, on voit qu'il y a très peu de neige en réalité. 3 jours plus tard, il n'y a plus rien.
To put it simply, to make snow you actually need temperatures below zero, but you also need some rain.
Ce qu'on a vu sur les 30 dernières années, c'est qu'on a à peu près 1 mm par an de neige qui tombe, mais sous forme d'équivalent en eau. En neige fraîche, ça correspond à peu près à 1 cm de neige en cumulé sur l'année. Il ne faut pas s'attendre à ce que ces JO asiatiques d'hiver fonctionnent avec de la neige naturelle.
Based on data collected by Laura Sorpe, over the past 30 years, Trojena has had an average of half an inch of snow per year. In France, a resort like the Alpe d'Huez gets an average of 13 feet of snow annually. Trojena's promoters are emphasizing multiple skiing solutions, which we'll discuss later. But before that, we're going to see that this station is actually part of a way bigger project. This project is Neom, a massive city that the Saudi government wants to build.
هذا المشروع ليس مكان لأي مستثمر أو أي شركة تقليدية، هذا مشروع فقط موقع ومكان للحالمين اللي يريدون خلق شيء جديد في هذا العالم.
At the core of this project, there's the line, a 655 feet wide, 105-mile long city building project. Here's the map. Each side would be 1640 feet high and covered in mirrors. Inside, the project does not include a road, but a high-speed train connecting the two ends in 20 minutes. The line will also accommodate many economic activities. Eventually, the city will be able to accommodate 9 million people. But the line is not the only component of Neom. Here's Oxagon, for example, a massive industrial port. It's fully automated, located along the Red Sea, where 13% of the world's container trade passes through.
Donc Neom, ça vient de l'étymologie grecque néo, et M, c'est mustakbal, donc ça veut dire le nouveau futur. C'est un étalement urbain de 26 500 km². C'est l'équivalent de la Belgique.
All right, but what does that have to do with winter sports? Actually, Neom has a third pillar alongside the Line and Oxagon Trojena. And Trojena is being presented as a hot new global destination for mountain tourism. Right here, in these barren mountains, is where the 22 miles of ski slopes need to be built. But also a massive artificial lake, over 2,800 homes and cabins, 12 luxury hotels, 45 and 2,000 square feet of shops and restaurants, and even a nature reserve. The site is set to open in 2026. The Winter Games are scheduled to occur there 3 years later.
Donc en fait, c'est aussi la volonté de promouvoir ce projet de Trojena à travers ce projet complètement fou d'organiser des Jeux asiatiques d'hiver dans le nord de l'Arabie Saoudite.
But is all of this truly compatible with preserving the environment, the climate, or even the water? This video shows some tests that were done in Trojena for skiing on artificial supports. But snow events are very much announced for the competition, and the project website announces 3 months of ski in the winter. To address this, Trojena relies on a mix of natural and artificial snow. More specifically, this article of Saudi media Al Arabiya explains that roughly 75% of slopes have artificial snow. This snow should be made in the most sustainable way possible with no chemical additives, according to Philippe Goulet, the director of the Trojena project. Winter games based on artificial snow are hardly a novelty. It was the case, for example, at the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing. But in Saudi Arabia, some challenge the realism of these claims. Firstly, because cold weather is needed to create and maintain artificial snow.
Une fois qu'on a produit donc de la neige artificielle, il faut savoir si elle va tenir. L'altitude moyenne de la parcelle qu'on a regardée, elle est à 1500 mètres d'altitude, ce qui correspond à peu près au bas de leur station. Ce qu'on a vu, c'est qu'en moyenne, on a moins de 1 jour par an où la température moyenne sur la journée, elle est inférieure à 0 degré.
I also read that by 2050, Saudi Arabia will experience significantly higher temperatures due to climate change. Clark Williams, in charge of communication for Neom, explains in this Euronews article that they need 26 degrees for snow. According to him, this would be possible 3 months of the year. To make artificial snow, you also need water and energy. Philippe Goulet has a plan to collect and recycle the meltwater that accumulates underneath the ski slopes. But where will the water come from? According to Philippe Goulet, water will be transported from desalination plants without waste.
36 km de piste, ça fait des volumes d'eau assez importants.
L'Arabie Saoudite va se reposer sur le dessalement de l'eau. Elle connaît bien ce procédé.
Seawater desalination can be fairly polluting. It depends on waste management and energy sources used during the process. In general, what are the effects that Trojena and Neom can have on the environment? Neom and Trojena are presented as zero-carbon and nature-friendly projects. In terms of energy production, Neom focuses on deploying wind turbines and solar panels on a large scale. I've found several studies that estimate it's possible to power a city of this size with renewable energy. Other experts are more skeptical, particularly about deploying these energies so rapidly.
Le solaire va être la principale énergie de ce projet, en plus de l'hydrogène vert dans lequel l'Arabie Saoudite s'est engagée comme un pari.
Although Saudi Arabia advertises 100% low-carbon energy for this emblematic project, it is not yet a nationwide goal.
لا أعتقد أن الطلب على الطاقة بيتزايد بشكل كبير جدا في المستقبل، فلا أعتقد أنه سوف ينخفض الطلب على النفط، بل سوف يتزايد إلى ما بين عام 2030-2040.
Moreover, the Neom website states that 100 million trees will be planted by 2030. An Indian study calculated how many trees Neom would have to plant to reach carbon neutrality for 1 million residents. Essentially, for the CO2 emissions of the city's million inhabitants to be absorbed by trees. According to the study, 1 billion trees are needed. On top of that, the Polytechnic University of Catalonia questions the emission-free feasibility of a city made entirely of glass, steel and concrete in the middle of a desert. This remains to be determined. Moreover, by 2030, Trojena aims for 700,000 tourists per year. Flights are often the biggest contributors to carbon footprint. Now, if we focus on wild animals, one of the fears I've seen is specifically about the line. This study found that its linear shape and reflective mirrors can be an obstacle for local wildlife. Additionally, several NGOs and researchers raised the question of human rights.
La tribu qui est installée depuis des siècles sur ces terres se trouve contestée par le royaume. Parmi cette tribu, il y a des gens qui sont mécontents parce que les rétributions sont différentes en fonction de la terre et des biens que possède chacun d'entre eux sur ce territoire. Il y a eu au moins 150 hommes condamnés à des peines de prison, et notamment certains à la peine de mort.
So, why hold the Winter Games here? The Asian Olympic Council unanimously designated Saudi Arabia to host its Winter Games in 2029.
L'Arabie Saoudite s'est présentée pour 2029 parce qu'il n'y avait plus de prétendants pour organiser cet événement.
For Saudi Arabia, Neom, Trojena, and the Winter Games align with the so-called 2030 vision. It's a national strategy led by Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, which aims to diversify the country's economy, historically heavily reliant on hydrocarbon exploitation. In this context, Trojena, the Winter Games and sports in general, as we see with football, play an important role.
La nouvelle génération qui arrive au pouvoir voit dans le sport un champ économique à investir, à pleinement investir par rapport justement à sa société qui est composée à 65% de moins de 30 ans. À partir de 2020, l'Arabie Saoudite montre son envie de devenir l'un des centres du sport mondial. Et donc, dans ce but, elle va investir dans le golf, mais aussi dans l'hippisme, le football comme on a pu le voir, mais aussi dans le cricket. Il y a vraiment la volonté de construire une vitrine sportive mondiale afin de se rendre attractive aux yeux du monde.
المملكة فعلا حاضنة لمواطنيها تهتم في شبابها تعمل يعني وفق رؤية همها وهاجسها الأول هو المواطن. مسألة تطوير ما ممكن ما أحبذ إني أسميها تطوير، ممكن نسميها بناء ثقافة الألعاب الشتوية في السعودية. هي جديدة علينا كسعوديين. ستفتح الباب.
To make Neom possible, the kingdom has already announced a public investment of $500 billion and the country is also calling on foreign investors.
Les investissements qui vont être faits par rapport à Trojena s'inscrivent dans la durée. Donc en fait, ça s'inscrit vraiment dans ce projet, dans cette volonté de créer un lieu pour les sports d'hiver en Arabie Saoudite et afin de créer l'attractivité de ce projet de Neom. Mais derrière cela, c'est toujours la question de est-ce que c'est durable, est-ce que c'est faisable? Pour le moment, on ne le sait pas parce qu'en fait, ça se repose essentiellement sur des technologies qui ne sont pas encore en mesure d'être mises en service.
We have the Asian Winter Games. What an amazing thing for us to have as an event that's coming up in 2029. So we will be finished by then. We are making great progress, we are on track, and we'll be ready to host the Games at the beginning of 2029.
I hope you found this episode of The Big Explanation interesting. As usual, here's a bonus story told by Raphaël Lemaguaric.
J'ai rencontré notamment à Abu Dhabi des gens du ministère du Sport d'Abu Dhabi qui me racontaient qu'à un moment, ils avaient la volonté d'accueillir une étape de la Coupe du Monde de slalom, par exemple, à Abu Dhabi. Donc en fait, ces visions assez folles ne sont pas nouvelles, mais l'Arabie Saoudite, elle, crée un événement bien plus fou et au sein d'un complexe, au sein d'une ville qui représente l'Arabie Saoudite de demain en fait.
Don't forget to like the video to help it reach a wider audience. You can subscribe to Brut and find other videos of the big explanation on animals or the environment. See you next Sunday for a new video.